getting into property was always something I wanted to do, but I always thought you need a lot of money to get into it. You need to save up for a deposit, the old school way. In 2016, I got written off in a car crash, about 50, 60 miles an hour, hit me, and I broke my pelvis. It took about 3 or 4 years to get my compensation for that. I got paid just shy of about 18,000. We used a bit of money. We went on holiday with my partner. The last 10k that I had, I put down on buying a house. At the start, I think there was a lot of great deals that I was posting up, and nobody was interested at all. Everybody thought I was full of shit, and go through that pain and anguish and frustration at why is nobody buying these deals? Because eventually, if you're consistent enough, somebody will buy. Tell the world that you've sold that deal. I went on to sell £18,000 worth of deals in 1 week.
Hello and welcome to the Self-Unemployed Podcast, where we talk about the journey to financial independence and becoming self-unemployed. My guest this week is Nathan Lamb. He is a deal sourcer, and he has a service accommodation management company, and he's also getting into doing BRRs now. So Nathan, hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you do? I don't know if I gave you a very good introduction there.
So, I think you kind of covered everything that we do anyway, but we started off with deal sourcing. And then when we were sourcing a lot of SA deals for people, then we moved into, there was a need for a lot of people wanting hands off. So we set the management company up. And we do very well on the SA management company for our clients. They're all extremely happy with how we perform. And then, like you said, I've moved into doing more BRRs. So I did have a little bit of a background before I joined the academy with Samuel Leeds in BRRs. But yeah.
Great. So I think for some of the audience who may not be familiar with some of these terms, SA, BRR, deal sourcing, we're going to have to get a little bit into that. But before we do, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into property and where you've come from? Because I did hear you do a talk a month or so ago at an event in Birmingham, and you have a very interesting story with a lot of drama and which would be great to hear some of that again. So
yeah, of course.
Yeah. So start at the beginning.
So getting into property was always something I wanted to do, but without prior training, I always thought, like everyone thinks, you need a lot of money to get into it. You need to save up for a deposit, the old school way of doing it, I guess.
Yeah.
And in 2016, December, I got written off in a car crash. So I had a driver come out at a T-junction, mile right away, and about 50, 60 miles an hour, hit me in my driver's side. And from that, I broke my pelvis. So yeah, it wasn't nice.
No.
It took about 3 or 4 years to get my compensation for that. So it took a long time, but yes, I had a broken pelvis. So then when I got paid out in kind of the back end of 2019, I got paid just shy of about 18,000. So I used some money to do my class 1 in lorry driving. So for the viewers that don't know, that's kind of the bigger trucks. So I already had my class 2 license, which was the smaller ones, the 18 tonners. So I used a bit of money to do my class 1 so I could drive the bigger ones. And then we used a bit of money. We went on holiday with my partner. And the last 10k that I had, I put down on buying a house on a residential mortgage. So
okay. So that was to live in.
So it was to live in, and that was with the side that we was going to do it up, and we was going to sell it.
Right.
But we we knew it was going to take some time because we didn't have any money to do it with. So it was kind of just save up a little bit of money at a time, get one job done, do the electrics or do the plastering. So that's kind of how it was for about 2 years. So we bought that place for 64,000. We spent.
So hold on, let's just back up a little bit.
Sure.
Let's just back up a little bit. So what were you doing? So, but when you had your accident, you were working, not at the time, but you were working as a lorry driver already. You just used some of that money to get a better license.
Well, I was just starting. I was just starting in my career as a lorry driver then.
So did you have to have a lot of time off?
I think fully I was out of work for about 9 months or so. Close to a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that must have been really, really hard.
Yes. Well, at the time, I didn't have a job per se. So it meant like, because I was doing agency work and other bits and bobs, it wasn't guaranteed. So when I did have the accident, I wasn't really entitled to any kind of money
not
back
from your work, because you weren't. It wasn't an accident when you were working. It was just a car accident.
Yeah.
Right. So you weren't entitled to any sort of statutory sick pay or compensation from your work. So
no.
Yeah. Okay. So so then moving forward again, then you upgraded your license and you bought a house and started to sort of flip it. So
correct.
So but maybe flip doesn't seem like the right word, because you said you were going to do it slowly.
Yeah, I knew it was going to take me a while, which is why I went for a 2-year fixed as well. So obviously, with a 2-year fixed rate, it meant if I'd come out early, there would have been penalties involved in that. Yeah. Early repayment charges.
So you planned for it to take 2 years.
Yeah.
And at this point, do you have family and things, or is it just?
So yes, and so my mum, my mum's now actually. She lives in Bridlington, so it's about 2 hours away from where I live in the East Midlands in Derby.
Right.
So,
but I mean, so you bought. It was just you living in the house, or were you married at the time, or did you have kids at the time? Because you do now, right?
Yeah. So I've got 3 kids.
Right.
My company after them. Yes. So Brooklyn, Elsie, and Teddy. So Estates Limited is my company.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, so me and my partner wasn't living together at the time. We are now.
Right.
But we wasn't at the time.
They didn't fancy moving into a building site.
No. No.
I just want to quickly say thank you so much for watching or listening. If you are watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and a subscribe and all that, and subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review. All those things are super useful. But if you like what you're hearing and you'd like to become self-unemployed yourself, then I'd really like to build a community. And the way that I'm doing that is I've got a free mailing list that you can join. And when we record these episodes, they're going to be put out as live streams. So you'll get to see a little bit behind the scenes. You'll get to see the episodes before they go out on the main channel and on the podcast. And you'll get to interact with us as we're recording. So if that sounds like something you'd enjoy, head on over to the website, links in the description. And I look forward to chatting with you as we record future episodes. So yeah, how did you go then from doing a flip slowly over the course of 2 years to now being full-time in property?
So when we was doing the flip, when I was in the middle of doing it, I think at some point in 2020 or 2020. No, so I got the keys in 2020, January 2020, I bought the house. And at the back end of 2020, I think maybe it was 21. I think it was 2021. I'd seen Samuel on TikTok at the time.
Right. So this is Samuel Leeds we're talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Not everyone. Hopefully, not everyone watching this will be super familiar with him, but I know that you and I are, and a lot of people will be. But yes. Okay.
So back in the 2021, when I was in the middle of doing my house, I'd seen him on TikTok. I watched a few of his videos, but he's quite out there, isn't he? As a person, he's very good at marketing himself and speaking about property. And he's very knowledgeable as well. He is very, very knowledgeable when it comes to property. So at the time, he was doing £1 crash courses at Nottingham, which was local to me. So I decided to go to Nottingham and do the £1 crash course. And then obviously at the time, at the £1 crash course, he does offer certain courses for discounts and stuff. But at the time, every penny that I had was going into this project that I had on my hands. So I didn't want to spend money doing courses when I was trying to refurb something with basically
and you know what, a lot of people would say that's the right thing to do. You know, why don't spend money on courses when you can just spend money on renovating, you know, because that's a lot of money. To some of these courses are a lot of money, and you could get, you know, a decent amount of the way through a refurb for that kind of money. So why spend the money on courses when you could spend it on the refurb? So yeah, tell us about how. So you didn't buy the course straight away.
No. So I didn't buy the course straight away, but I did continue to watch him on YouTube, and then I subscribed to him on YouTube. So every video he put out, I subscribed to it. At the time as well, he also had something called Samuel 365, which is a bit like his online training now. But there was a few courses that he does on there for free, so I signed up to that. And I think at the time it was like $9.99 a month. It was minimum. Like £10 a month, you could subscribe.
And when are we talking? What year are we talking now?
Because probably around the same sort of time, like 2020, start of 2022, the end of 2021.
Okay.
Around the same sort of time.
Right. So this is after COVID and things.
Yes and no. I think it was kind of in between lockdowns, because I think we had one more lockdown after that. But so I think it was kind of in between lockdowns. But I just carried on watching him, and I was learning a lot of stuff, especially off the Samuel 365 stuff that I was paying $9.99 a month for. And they was very informative for what you was paying for. It was very informative, and it always got me questioning, and it was always in the back of my mind. And I decided one day when we'd completed the house and it was on the market, and I knew I was going to get a lot more than what I planned to, because COVID happened and house prices shot right up. So originally we thought we'd get 100 for it, and by the end of COVID it was worth 125. So I actually ended up getting an extra 25,000 more than I thought I would. So at that point, when we put it on the market, I reached out to some of Samuel's sales team and spoke to Elliot, and asked him all the questions that I needed to ask. I don't just want to do one course. What if I want to do such and such, because there's so many different subjects. How do I learn about it all? And then he told me about the academy and what the initial price was, etc. And I had that in the back of my mind. And as soon as my house sale went through, it went through at the end of October 22. I had a big pot of cash in the bank. So I was like, this is something that I want to look at doing. More the BRR side of things. I don't think deal selling and serviced accommodation really interested me at the time, because I'd already done a BRR, so I was more interested in that. And
So for those who don't know, BRR stands for buy, refurbish, rent, and then refinance. What you did was technically a flip, because you didn't refinance, you sold it. But it's like buy, refurbish, sell. But it's the same thing in terms, because the hard bit's buying the right property and refurbing it at the right price.
Yeah.
It's just a different way of exiting.
Yeah.
So just going back a bit then, when you started your flip, did
Mhm.
you did you have any knowledge of because that's a very common strategy. You see it on TV all the time, homes under the
Yeah.
hammer and
Yeah.
property ladder. There's been and they all focus on flips. They don't talk about any of the other strategies, essays. Well, they didn't even talk about BRR, even though it's similar.
No.
It's
Yeah.
almost as if they want to hide those things from people. But did you have any awareness of those kind of things, or were you just doing what you thought everyone does?
No, so I was just doing what I thought everybody did. Obviously, I've watched the programs with my mum when I was poorly off school. Homes Under the Hammer was on TV. that sort of thing. I was always fascinated by
Yeah,
what people did and how much money they was making and etc. etc. So property always interested me as a kid
yeah.
growing
But what
up.
do you
It's
think of those
always
programs now that you know a lot more about it yourself?
I think they don't tell you half of it. They do tell you a few problems, and 9 times out of 10, somebody's always gone over budget. So they'll say
Yeah,
on those sorts of programs, "Oh, we've got a 12 grand budget," and then they come back and it looks like a palace, and then we ended up spending 35 grand.
yeah.
But
And
yeah,
you can do that if it's your own home, but if you're doing it as a business, you don't have a business
yeah,
if you do that.
no, you
Yeah,
have to keep
so
costs down.
yeah, and I do think that they have to simplify things, because if they went into all the details,
Yeah,
it would just get boring and people wouldn't understand, especially if they start talking about bridging finance and other things like that. So I think part of the reason is they have to simplify it to make
yes and no.
to make
I
it
think
appeal.
the way Samuel trains is is very clever, because what he does is he takes things that do look so complicated, but he explains it in a way that's very easy to follow
Yeah,
and understand.
yeah, he does. Yeah.
Mm.
So by the end of your flip, you've been watching a lot of Samuel's videos. So by then, even though you hadn't I guess you hadn't done any live training apart from the crash course.
Yeah,
So you must have become aware of these strategies, even though you hadn't
yeah,
done much training in them.
yeah. But I still wasn't really interested in them. I was just fixated on how to raise finance and how to do BRRs with other people and developments. Like deal sourcing and essays was not an interest to me at all when I originally joined. There was the
Right.
furthest thing from my mind.
But that is what you do now, or what is what you?
Yeah, yeah.
So tell us a bit more about what you do now, then.
So main business at the minute seems to be essay management. So
Right.
for those that are watching or will watch later, serviced accommodation. Essays is serviced accommodation. So that's where the way we do it, 9 times out of 10, is we'll rent a property off a landlord and we'll stage it. We'll make it look nice and we'll put it up on Airbnb and Booking.com and other platforms as well. And rent it out on a nightly rate.
Yeah.
Create super rent.
Right. So doing it that way, you can get a lot more rent than you would to a regular tenant on a AST contract, which is what most tenants will be on. How much more rent can you make doing it as an SA?
Oof. I mean, typically we look to be breaking even at 50% occupancy. So that's 15 nights booked on average a month.
Right.
So if we can get 15 nights booked, that's typically paying for our rent, our bills, utility, gas, Wi-Fi, whatever there is, and cleaning fees. So we want to break even at that 50% number. Anything under that is even better, but 50% is kind of where we're aiming for. So typically, sometimes, on average, we're achieving between 75 to 80%, sometimes more. But you've got to remember, at that 50% mark, we're making the rent plus the bills and everything else already.
Yeah.
We're breaking even at that 50% point. So
And is the rent that you pay the landlord similar to what a tenant would pay the landlord? Or are you paying more or less?
When I first started, it seemed to be less. So when I first started in essays, it seemed to be less, but the demand for properties in general throughout the country seems to be through the roof. So landlords know this, and they know they can charge probably a little bit more now. They know we're making money off of them, so sometimes it can be more.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's about market rate, but it just depends on the market at the time.
Then, yeah. And what about, presumably they would have had an agent if they're so are you
Sometimes
going
yes.
direct to them, or do you go to their agent? Is the agent sort of getting cut out?
No, it literally varies. So
Yeah.
first deal in Derbyshire is a property manager. So he manages portfolio properties for portfolio landlords that just don't have the time. So
yeah,
he might put it on for, we're paying 925 in Derby, but the rent that the landlord wants might be only 850. I don't know, but so he has a massive portfolio of properties, and in Birmingham we're through an estate agent. So it literally varies on who you get. Sometimes you get direct to landlord as well. So
yeah. So it can be either way.
Yeah, it can be either way. Ultimately, it's better if we go direct to landlord for the landlord and for us, because there's more room to negotiate then.
And then also, when you're taking on a property to run as a service accommodation, because you have a service accommodation management company, so you're, a regular lettings agent doesn't really have anything to do. So what are they getting paid for if they are?
Yeah, exactly.
Apart from the fact that they're sort of, they're in the picture, so they get to sort of stay in the picture.
Yeah. So they'll still get paid. Some landlords don't understand. I think a lot of landlords don't understand why it's beneficial for them, but that's up to us to put ourselves in a position to market ourselves and
explain why it is.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, so this is your opportunity then. Why is it better for a landlord? I'm a landlord. I've got a couple of apartments that I could rent to a rent-to-rent person. Why should I do it and not just carry on the way I am, with a long-term tenant?
Okay. So you've got an AST tenant in one of your properties now. What happens if he doesn't pay?
Well, I've never had that situation, but we would have to.
Happen.
It does happen, yeah. And I suppose the more properties I get and the longer I have them, the more inevitable that I will have to face that situation. Well, yeah, I mean, I have landlord's insurance, or rent guarantee insurance, so some of that is covered. But
does
yes,
that cover your
ultimately,
as well?
The rent guarantee cover does, yes, and the bailiff if I have. So if it gets to that stage, so yeah, that if they continue to not pay and then eventually you'd have to get the courts involved. You have to get bailiffs involved, and it's nasty. It's
how long would it take to get them out?
Well, I have heard it can take up to 18 months or even 2 years. It kind of depends on how quickly you act and how good your management is.
Yeah, but I mean, typically the fastest you could, if you could move super fast, how long would it take?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Maybe, is it 6?
Maybe around 6 months ish. Maybe 4 or 5. Somewhere around
there must be a certain amount of time that you have to leave it before you can actually
2 months
issue an eviction. 2 months. Yeah. So okay.
Yeah.
So if they're 2 months in arrears, you can give them an eviction. You can issue the eviction notice, but then that eviction gives them 2 months notice.
Yeah.
And then you can start court proceedings. But then, how long is it going to take for the court proceedings to actually happen?
Yeah. So my point there is, typically it's going to take probably around 5 to 6 months to get them out, and that's 5 or 6 months without rent payment. I know you've got your insurance, but then if you claim on that insurance, your premiums are going to go up as well.
And it's
whole list of headaches and problems that you just don't want. Also, they're not going to take care of your property as well as we are. So
No.
we're gonna maintain this property to a very high standard. We're gonna want to decorate. We're gonna want to stage it really nice, put nice furniture in. We'll have cleaners regularly. We vet all of our guests, so we take IDs, we take security deposits, we get them to sign rental agreements stating that they're not going to have any parties there. Typically, we don't really have any issues, and your property is going to be kept to a high standard. So the way you give it us is the way that you're going to get it back at the end of that contract. And my point about how long it takes to do the eviction process, if we don't pay rent as a company, you can get your property back within 2 weeks. Within 14 days, you can take control of your property, because we are on essentially a commercial lease, not an AST.
Right. So if you don't pay your rent, the landlord can literally just walk in 2 weeks later and say, goodbye, you're out of here. Yeah. So and then so that's one benefit.
And it's a not less headache. And we take care of small maintenance as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, you're renting out on a short-term basis on things like Airbnb and Booking.com, but also direct to contractors. So you need to, every time there's a changeover, you need to come in, send cleaners, maintain it, get it back to that state that matches the listings on those websites and things. So yes, one thing that might put landlords off is a high turnover of tenants or guests, technically. But it's not like changing over a tenant for the landlord is a bit of a hassle and a lot of extra cost. But changing over a guest is no big deal for the tenant, for the landlord. It's more it's a bit of more work for you maybe, but you've got systems in place and things, and you're not passing any of that cost onto the landlord. That's all. No. So from their point of view, there's no break in their contract. It's totally smooth and you're always going in, attending to any small maintenance issues, cleaning, making sure the place is clean and tidy.
It has to be, because if we didn't maintain it to a high standard, we wouldn't have a business very long. Yeah. So,
but do you still get so given how much that it is, really great for the landlords, do you still get pushback and reluctance to do it?
Yes. I'll tell you an example of an estate agent in Birmingham. So 𝐘𝐿𝐴ZN, who is my staff member on my sourcing company, but we also now 50-50 own the management. So we do that together. But he'd sent me a deal in Birmingham, and he said, give these a call, because it's not really his forte, and see if we can get a viewing on this place. He would go and do the viewing because he's Birmingham based, but I just need to get the viewing booked. So I rang them up, and it's a well-known estate agent, 𝐘𝐞𝐚𝐭, I think, in Birmingham. And it was a beautiful 4-bedroom townhouse, newly built, probably in the early 2000s. Really nice. And I rang them up straight away. As soon as they said it would be a company let. No, we don't do company lets. And that particular day, I was feeling a little bit cocky. So I said, you've not done company lets with me yet. Let me tell you a bit about how we work. And he then said, well, okay, how do you work? So then I stuck to my usual scripts that I do. Okay, so we've got XYZ clients, a lot of NHS staff that need housing. They come to the area for a short period of time, maybe 1 month, maybe 6 months. It really does vary. But as you know, as you're an estate agent, you can't get an AST for typically less than 12 months. So we have a real need to house these people. So these are the types of clientele that we use and that we put in our property. Everybody is fully vetted. These are our security systems. This is what we take. This is what we do. We maintain the property to a high standard, the whole spiel. And at the end of it, he just said, would Tuesday at 4 o'clock work for you? And I was like, yeah, I'll be there. So sometimes it is about pushing back a bit. Sometimes I think you've got to think nowadays, a lot of people are ringing the estate agent saying the same thing over and over. So it's about being a bit different. Maybe that comes with experience as well, because at that time I was a bit more experienced than probably the newer starters nowadays. But confidence helps.
So it must be going wrong, though. You say they get a lot of people calling because these strategies are becoming quite widespread and well known. I saw a video today about this new type of school, which seems excellent. I just followed them on Instagram, the Future of Education or something they call. But anyway, one of the things that generally I think the education thing that this school seems great, but one of the things that they said they're doing is that there's a bunch of like 10-year-olds who are running an Airbnb property, and I thought, wow, I mean that could make an interesting selling point on a listing, as long as there's someone supervising them. But yeah, it's becoming very popular. So they must have had some bad experiences. So maybe it's not as easy as some people seem.
There are a lot of people out there that will see a few videos probably of Samuel, this is how you do it, blah, 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 but they've not invested in themselves. They've not got the proper education, and then they go out there and give it a bash. We'll give it a try. We'll see if it works before we invest in our education. and then they end up doing it very badly. They'll give the keys back in 2 months' time and say it's not working for us, have the keys back, and the estate agents are left having to remarket and try and fill that void again for a landlord. So they probably don't maintain the property. So there are a lot of bad people that give us a bad name. But I think that's the same in any industry that you go in. You can have poor electricians, you can have really good electricians, you can have good policemen, you can have bad policemen. It's the same up and down the country, no matter what profession you're in. There's going to be people that are doing it badly.
Yeah, that's interesting. I can think of a lot of things. Bad internet providers. Yeah, but so not everyone's the same. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so yeah, and so how do you set yourself apart? I mean, go on. I don't think we've really talked about that. You said a little bit what you say to the agent, but how do you actually set yourself apart so that your business works?
In terms of management, is a very different creature. That's very, very, very customer focused. So one thing we like to do with every single guest, no matter who it is or where they're from, is give them a call as soon as they're there. A lot of people won't do this.
As soon as they arrive at the property?
Yes. Give them about 10.
And can you see when they've let themselves in through smart door locks and stuff like that?
Ring door camera, yes. So we have rings set up in all of our properties. It works for us. And as soon as we see them enter the property, we'll give them about 10-15 minutes to settle in. But then we'll give them a call. The first reason for the call is to find out if there is any issues. Because if there are issues, you want to be on it and get them sorted straight away.
You want to be proactive. You don't want to wait for them to complain. You want to.
Yeah, exactly. We had an instance the other day. Just the other day, a property that we've been running for about 7 or 8 months now for a client. Our cleaners didn't go and clean the property that day. So there was a same day check out, same day check in. And for whatever reason, the cleaners must have missed it on the schedule, which happens from time to time. People can make mistakes. Cleaner is a super cleaner, so I wasn't too mad with them because it's not normal for them to do that. But it did happen on this occasion. But I'd rang the guest and I'd asked if everything was okay. They checked in fine, there's no issues. And they said, well, none of the beds are made. I said, what do you mean none of the beds are made? No, none of the beds are made. The place is a little bit dirty, but nothing too much. And I just said, look, give me 5 minutes. I'll ring the cleaner and I'll get back to you. And I rang the cleaner and the cleaner says, oh, I'm so sorry. I'll go around there straight away. I'll be there within half an hour. And I went there and within half an hour, did the clean. And then at the end, when the guests left, they left us a 5-star review. But in the 5-star review, ultimately, they did say, we showed up.
There was a problem. Yeah.
There was a problem, but Nathan contacted me straight away, and within half an hour, it was sorted. So that could have possibly been a really negative review.
Yeah.
But because I sorted it straight away, that then led
sometimes
to a 5-star.
Yeah. Even if the cleaner had gone and cleaned and everything had been fine, it might have only been a 4-star review. Maybe. But my point is that, the fact that you dealt with the issue quickly and dealt with it well was seen as a good thing by the customer rather than a bad thing that it happened, because they didn't have to complain about it. You were proactive and you were on it. You caught it before it became an issue.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that is why we ring our guests to begin with. But then ultimately we'll try and move on to the why they are in the area. Have they got need to come back? Do they stay here often? Are they working? All these sorts of questions. And then trying to gather as much information as possible to see whether they'd be a good fit for a direct booking. Maybe they're just there for the day and they never come to the area, which is fine. At that point,
so explain what you mean by a direct booking, because I'm sure some people might be confused by that.
Yeah. So typically most of our bookings come from either Airbnb or Booking.com. They're the main two platforms where we get bookings from. But they charge 15% plus VAT. So 18% they charge, plus a payment fee to send the money to yourselves as well. So they charge a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, it all adds up. So typically you're probably paying about 20% per booking. Maybe not that much, but around that sort of figure. And if we can convert that into a direct booking, even if we're giving our guest 10% discount, we are saving ourselves around the 8%. So it means a lot more money. So if you can get them
to book direct with you, you can give them a better price and make more money yourself.
Correct. So everybody's a winner.
Cutting out the platforms,
Now you
said you're on Booking and Booking.com and Airbnb. Is it difficult to manage that? Because what if someone books on Airbnb, you have to block out the dates on Airbnb?
Yeah. No. So we use a channel manager. We use Uplisting. So what Uplisting would do is it's connected to Airbnb and to Booking.com and to Price Labs, which is a dynamic pricing software, which will evaluate the market for you and let you know. Well, it'll automatically put the prices up for you depending on demand, or lower the prices depending on demand. So it's all connected to our channel manager system. So if somebody did book on Airbnb, then it'll automatically block the calendar out everywhere else.
Right. Okay. So what else does the channel manager do? I guess presumably it can automatically send emails to guests and things like that.
Automated messages, instructions. So as soon as a guest books for us, 10 minutes after they book, they get sent a message with a link for them to do their ID, security deposit information, and we get them to sign a rental agreement, which basically says no parties, no smoking, no house rules, basically. Once they've completed that, 24 hours before their check-in, they'll get sent a full list of check-in instructions. This is the property. This is the full address. This is how to find it. But also, we like to go a bit more above and beyond. So with our properties, we like to do YouTube videos and say and walk from the entrance. So we run a penthouse in Brighton, which is inside the Hilton Hotel.
Oh, wow.
But you have to access it from the lifts, a different set of lifts, not the main lifts. So it's a different set of lifts.
So it must be confusing.
So it can be quite confusing. So that's initially where I came up with the idea of a YouTube video would work great here, just to simplify it for our guests. So we walked from loads of different entrances. So if you're walking from this entrance, follow this route. If you're walking from this entrance, follow this route. And then when you get up in the lift, this is the entrance to the front door, and this is where the key safe is. In the Hilton Hotel as well, we have cards because our guests can get 15% discount on the hotel's food and drinks. They can go in the swimming pool, they can go in the sauna, they can go in the gym that they've got in the hotel. All the facilities that the hotel have, they can use. So this is where the cards are. Everything we put in a YouTube video, and we just literally, it's a private video. It's on my YouTube channel, so unless I share the link with you, you can't see it. But they get sent that YouTube link to make it easier. Follow this, and it works perfectly. We've never had anybody ask us how to find it. So
that's interesting. Yeah. So how many properties have you got under management? Because
8 at the minute.
8, right? And are these ones that you are renting, or because you said you were doing deal sourcing for rent to rent? So are there other people renting them, and then you're just managing them?
Correct.
What's right?
Yeah.
So as a deal sourcer for rent to rents, you would be doing all the negotiating with the landlord and explaining to the agent why how it's good, and then once you've sort of done all that work, you package up that deal. You're saying this is what rent you're going to pay. This is what the bills are going to be, and presumably you do some market research into.
Not personally anymore. Not personally anymore, but at the start, yes, I did. But Draws and does all that together. For me.
Okay, yeah. But deal selling for rent to rent is when somebody does all that work for an investor, and the investor just comes along, pays the rent, and sets themselves up to pay the utilities. There may be a certain amount of renovation to do.
Yes,
and
potentially.
Then,
Staging costs and stuff like that.
It seems like a good idea to use a deal. Right.
So
so that's another service that you offer. Yeah.
It's another service that we offer. We don't do the staging personally ourselves anymore. We did when we first started out, but we don't do it anymore. We kind of outsource it. But the person we outsource it to is a Bex from these 4 walls. So I'll give her a massive shout out because every property that she does for us just does extremely well.
Really? Yeah, I've heard good things about her. I'm hoping to have her on the show. She was on the eviction, I think.
She was, yes. I'm excited to watch that.
I was at Willingham House a couple of weeks ago where they were doing the eviction, and I think I went in one of the rooms that she did on a tight budget. So yeah, I think it was pretty good.
Yeah, she's very good at what she does, and I can't give her enough credit for the stuff that she's done for us. Every time she's done a property, it's done extremely well. So.
Okay. Well, I'm going to clip this and tag her on Instagram. So Bex, please come on the show. Okay. So if there are investors out there who are interested in rent to rent, but they don't fancy all that haggling and negotiating and explaining to landlords and estate agents, they can come to you and you can sort of sort all that out for them and sort out the staging and renovation and management, so that it can be sort of completely hands off. Is that right?
Completely hands off. Yeah, completely hands off.
So how much would something like that cost someone? Asking for a friend.
Okay. It really depends on the size of the property. And because we don't have any involvement on where Bex comes in, that's a separate cost between the client and Bex herself.
Right.
But we just recommend her. So if they want her to do the staging, then she will do it. But I think typically you'll pay as a sourcing fee of £3,000, or some sources I do work with are VAT registered. So in some instances, I will charge £3,000 plus VAT because I have to pay the coastal so VAT. And then they would typically pay the first month's rent, a deposit if I've not managed to negotiate a no deposit option, and then if they want to do staging, then the staging fee. Or if they do, staging themselves,
staging, to be clear, is basically putting all the furniture in, because you might be renting unfurnished, so you got to put the furniture in. And so when you do the staging, you continue to own that furniture and washing machine, refrigerator, stuff like that. So that's not just a cost; that's an investment, or you are buying things that you still own. Important to clarify that.
Yeah, so you're still left with them at the end, depending on the deal that you go into. I've had some deals where it's been furnished. The property, the furniture just isn't to a standard that maybe the client wants. So they will then get rid of that sofa and buy a new one. But then that's on the understanding that that sofa has to stay because you've got rid of the old one.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. So that's rent to rent. And then you said at the beginning that you were moving into sourcing BRRs as well. Is that right?
Yeah.
So correct. BRR is buy, refurbish, rent, refinance. Tell us about that.
So a BRR, yes.
Yeah.
Like I said, I did the first one before I joined the academy. And when I joined the academy, I didn't want to do the stuff that we've just been talking about. I didn't want to do deal sourcing. I didn't want to do rent to rent. I was highly focused on just doing more BRRs and continuing to
so actually,
work.
Let's look into that. So what changed? Why did you change from doing what you know to now having a business in what you didn't want to do?
So lorry driving, because I was self-employed through a limited company on lorry driving, I was earning decent money. I was earning probably around £1,000 a week to £1,200 a week, so around that figure on average.
Yeah,
that's what good. I was earning. So it is good money, but I didn't like it. I hated it. Early mornings, long days, never seen your kids, and on the weekend you're too tired, so you don't want to go out. You don't want to spend time with the kids. You just want to recuperate because you know you've got to do it all again the next week. So I didn't like. I liked the financial side of lorry driving. I didn't like the actual work itself. And also, you're not treated very nicely. You're not treated very nicely. In the HGV industry, you are treated poorly by almost everybody. Almost everybody. There's no great parking. You're expected to park up on crappy industrial sites and risk getting robbed. All sorts, and there's nowhere to park anywhere. There's nowhere to. You can't really eat healthily when you're on the road because everywhere that you can park is just fast food and McDonald's and Burger King, and so it's just not a great life to be living. So I learned very quickly that I wanted to replace my income and become financially free. The more training I did, and the more Samuel spoke about financial freedom and everything else, the more I was warming to the idea of getting into serviced accommodation and doing deal sourcing.
Right. So the strategy that you had done, the house that you bought, fixed up, and then sold, that's you get a lump sum of. Well, you said you got 125. And
Yeah, so I came out with cash in the bank. I came out with just shy of 70, I think, by the time it sold,
yeah,
which
but that's as a
was
lump
good.
sum, which
Mhm.
is not sort of ongoing residual income. It's not an
Not even 2
income.
years'
It's
wages, if you think about it.
yeah, yeah. It's nice lump sum. Wouldn't
Yeah,
complain,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's with that kind of investment, you got to keep working for it, keep working for it.
Mhm.
Whereas, yeah. So explain to me, is that what changed? Is that
Yeah, the
why
more Samuel
what
spoke
convinced you to
about it,
change? Yeah.
yeah, the more courses I went to, the more Samuel spoke about it, the more I'd spoke to people that are just starting out at the same time as me, but then 3-4 months down the line, they're not working anymore. They've got 4 or 5 rent to essays themselves, or they're doing deal sourcing and they're making 10 grand a month. And I'm seeing all these other people. It's about being in the right environment. So when you're seeing it, seeing is believing. So when you're seeing it with somebody you started with who was probably in the same position that you was 5 months ago, but now they're earning 10 grand a month, they're not working anymore. They're doing what they want with their life and they're making a real go of it, and you're still sat in the same position, lorry driving, hating life. I did start to come onto the idea of, okay, maybe I do need to do this.
Yeah. Because the other strategies can help you replace that income, which is what you need to do if you want to quit your job. Yeah.
So I think when I very first joined the academy in November 22, I'd put an offer in on a house in January 23 to buy.
Right.
So I knew I was buying this house. It was a BRR. So my capital I didn't really want to touch in terms of putting it into an SA, because I wanted to save it for this project. About 5 months in, I found somebody who was local to me who wanted to do essays and was working full time, and said he would put the money in if we found the property. So we found the property, he put the money in, I did most of the works. He helped as well, as and when he could, in between work and stuff. But and that was our first essay. So he put the money in, and I didn't use any of my own money. And then I came to the realization of, he's just done that. He's had that faith in me, and what I've done, yes, I've brought sweat equity into this. So I put my time and effort into it to get it up and running. So, and then I did the same with �𝐻𝐻𝐿. So that's how me and 𝐻𝐻𝐿 met. I was at a unofficial academy meetup. So somebody somebody was doing like a meetup in Birmingham, a barbecue. So I went to that barbecue and I met 𝐻𝐻𝐿 there. And he was saying, I work all the time, I don't have time to do essays. And by then, I'd already learned how essays work, how the channel manager works, how to set everything up. So I said, I'll do it if you put the money in. So that was my second essay. And then as time went on...
So he was your second client?
Well, joint venture.
Right.
At that time.
Okay, yeah.
So, joint venture, yeah. So it was a joint ventureship. Structured a little bit differently to the first one, where I gave him 2 options because I wanted to get out of working. So I said, the first one was set up as he gets all his initial investment first, and then the profits are 50-50. With 𝐻𝐻𝐿, I said, I want to start getting paid from this. So I'll take 20% until you've been paid back. So at least I'm earning a little bit of something. And then we'll go 50-50 on the profits. Or if you want, right from the off, I'm happy to drop 10% and we'll just go 60-40 on profits straight away. And he chose the 60-40 option.
Okay.
So it was structured a little bit differently.
So you were still working at this point? You were still working as a lorry driver?
Yeah.
So how many was that it then? Did that enable you to quit, or did you have to get a couple more clients?
No. And then I started doing deal sourcing.
Right.
Initially tried it with a JV partnership, and I tried to sell the BRR on the one that I put an offer in on at the beginning of January 23. And I didn't have the credibility. Nobody trusted a word I was saying. I was saying it's going to be 150 GDV. I'll do the refurb for 25 grand. I've got the team in place, etc., etc. And everybody thought I was full of shit. So I thought, fuck them. I'm going to buy it myself. I'm going to prove it. And
document the process, and then you've got the credibility.
Yeah, exactly. And that property, Samuel actually came out himself and filmed not so long ago.
Right. Yeah,
so,
I think I've seen that on your Instagram, yeah.
And we're literally in the process of selling that property now for 145. And it was valued 145 by the valuer. So
you're, a lot of customers missed out on a good opportunity there.
Yes.
But I think
a lot cheaper.
I don't think lack of credibility is an issue you face now, though. You're very well spoken of in the academy, and yes. Yeah.
No,
but I guess that's a problem. Yeah, that must be a problem that a lot of people coming along and saying, "I'm going to get into deal sourcing."
Selling your first deal is the hardest. I think it is the hardest. Finding that one person to have enough trust in you and your figures and believe what you're telling is true is the hardest part of deal sourcing. But if you have to document it, you have to tell everybody. So as soon as you sold that first deal, go on Instagram, go on the WhatsApp group, do a video, shout about it to the world. I've just made £3,000 selling this deal, and tell absolutely everybody that you've done it. And do that every single time until you get enough credibility that people know you do that, which is what I started doing. I think at one point I was posting deals in the Academy WhatsApp group, and there was being sold within an hour, sometimes a couple of hours, other times. Every time I'd sold it, I'd go back, highlight it, and mark it, and tell people this is now sold. And people see that.
Yeah.
Whether they comment, whether they like it, or whether they just ignore it, they do see it. And then eventually.
But do you think though, if you weren't so well respected in the group, that wouldn't necessarily happen, or do you think anyone can go in there and sell, just post a deal and have it sold within a couple of hours?
Again, I think credibility helps.
Yeah.
Credibility does help with deal selling, but I don't think it's necessary for deal selling. It makes it a lot easier if you're credible. Yeah. But it's not necessary.
And like you said, it took you a long time to build that credibility. So let's say there's someone who's thinking about. We've been talking a lot about Samuel Leeds and the academy. We mentioned the crash courses, which is where it all begins. So if anyone is thinking about getting into property and getting into deal selling and rent-to-rents and essays, what would you recommend to them to someone to sort of because it can seem easy until you start doing it. It can some people it can sort of they can make you think it's a bit easier than it is.
Managing
so what would be your advice?
Easy. Can't really give general advice to the whole public because my advice is different for each individual person. Because if somebody comes to me and says they're earning 100 grand a year and they love that job, then I'd say carry on doing that because you don't really need to replace your income.
No.
Look to more the BRRs, investing that money into BRRs or developments. Whereas if somebody was earning £2,000 a month and they said, I fucking hate my job, I can't wait to get out of it, then I would say, go and do rent-to-rents or do some deal sourcing and get your education and know what you're talking about.
So what would be what I meant though is like, what would be your advice to sort of get over that period where they've got no credibility How do they get from that moment they sort of join the academy to how can they successfully
Consistency.
after six months have built credibility? Consistency.
Consistency. Yeah, consistency. At the start, I think there was a lot of great deals that I was posting. At the start, I tried to sell a lot of BRR deals, BRRs to HMOs, and nobody was interested at all. And I had to let them go and tell the estate agent, sorry, it's not for me. And I'll go through that pain and anguish of frustration at why is nobody buying these deals? Because if this was being sold to me and I had the money, I would buy this fucking thing. So, but being consistently post, even if your deals don't sell, just consistently post. And then when it does sell, because eventually, if you're consistent enough, somebody will buy. It'll be the deal for them. Post about it. Tell the world, like I said. Tell the world that you've sold that deal. And every single time you sell a deal, tell the world. And eventually, like I say, people see it. And I went on to sell £18,000 worth of deals in 1 week.
Really?
Yeah. So,
and is that regular, or like
no,
that was an exceptional week, right?
That was
on a normal month, on average.
But that was me trying to prove to myself how much I could get done in 1 week if I really, really knuckled down and focused on hammering these deals out. How much I could get done, and that's
18,000 in profit, like deal sourcing fees.
Yes, in deal sourcing fees. So
amazing.
That was spoke about on my winners. And, on my winners.
When you say winners, what you mean Winners on a Wednesday, which is an interview series that Samuel Leeds does with his successful students on his channel. So check out. Nathan's,
I keep forgetting.
Winners on a Wednesday.
A lot of people that might be watching probably won't know what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Winners on a Wednesday.
Hopefully this is going to reach a sort of wider audience. What do you think of the Samuel Leeds and the Academy? How's it been for you?
Well, I've definitely had my return on investment back. So for me, it's been a good investment. But it's about having a toolbox in your head. So the lights go off in my head about when I'm looking at property, I look at it completely different now. So if I see a property up for sale, but it's also up for rent, I'm immediately thinking maybe they'll accept a lease option.
Lease option, yeah.
Yeah. What could I turn this into? Could it be a HMO? Could it be an SA? There's loads of different. Could I rent it to social housing? Loads of different. There's a toolbox in my head of things that I can do. But like I said, I've also earned my money back from my initial investment and then some. A lot more.
Yeah, well, like you said, you had a week where you made 18 grand, so that's more than.
Yeah.
That's more than the year's salary. The year's fees.
Yeah. So
what's your favourite bit of the academy? What part of what's on offer do you think that you benefited from the most?
I think with the BRR course there was a lot that I knew prior. So I think learning wise with the BRR course, there was a few things that I picked up that I probably didn't know, but I think I kind of almost knew roughly anyway. The most that I learned was on the serviced accommodation because I came into the academy knowing absolutely nothing. Same with deal sourcing. The environment is key. I think I don't speak to anybody that isn't either in the academy or in property in general anymore. The people that I speak to they're all in property. They're all doing something in the property sector. Which is the friends that you make along the way is life changing. Draws and initially we just met
and
barbecue.
When you started, so when you started the inner circles, were not a thing, right? They're a relatively new feature on the Samuel Leeds Academy.
Yeah.
But I suppose it was events like that showed there was demand for it. So then they made it official. So the inner circles are these regular networking events in different areas, and that's where we
monthly.
Met.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. What did I say?
Yeah.
Weekly. Yes.
No, I don't think you covered when. So they're on monthly. Every month.
Right.
In different locations.
Yes, every month. Yep. Yeah. So for me, that's one of my favorite things. Just anything where you just get in the room with those like-minded people. Just to me is so.
It's the energy
empowering.
That you go home with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I used to work at Amazon. A year ago, I was working at Amazon stuffing boxes, and I also owned 4 properties, but my strategy was sort of okay, just keep slugging it out for a few more years, keep buying another property every year, and then I'll be able to retire. But I just got so tired of it and so sick of it, and it was because I just didn't feel valued in that environment. But as soon as I stepped into a crash course, I just felt like $1 million. I just felt like this is where I belong. These people understand me. These people appreciate me. These people value what I have to say. And that was just a crash course. It wasn't even on the an academy event. So yeah. So I would highly recommend, if you're even slightly curious, then I would highly recommend getting down to a crash course. It only costs £1, and you can get a taste of what it's all about. Before you make any sort of decide not to, because what have you got to lose?
It's exactly what I did. I didn't sign up for the training, but when I did have the money, I knew it was the first thing that I wanted to do.
Yeah, one more question I've got to ask you is, who do you think I should have on the show? It doesn't have to be an academy person. We have already mentioned Bex, and I already have her on my list of people I want to have on the show, although I haven't talked to her about it yet. So, excluding her, can you give me 2 more recommendations?
If you wanted to deep dive into essays more on how to market yourself and how to pricing structures and the full deep dive into essays and essay management and what it entails, I think 𝐘𝐸𝐿 would be, because 𝐘𝐸𝐿 is very, very clever at what he does. And this is why he makes such a great business partner, because his weaknesses are my strengths and my strengths are his weaknesses. So or vice versa. You get what I'm trying to say. So he's very clever at and not marketing per se. I think sales is more my thing, but the background stuff, the work that goes into it. At the minute, we're working on he, because this is his forte, is working on kind of a calculator for pricing structure. If you want £1,000 profit per month, then this is what you should charge per day, per night, etc., etc. There is one person on the academy, he may be still on the academy, he may not be, that does this and has his own calculator. But what we're trying to do is build our own, but a better version that's hopefully gonna compete, if not supersede, the one that's already out there. But it's all about pricing.
Okay, so
we're working on that. But this is what 𝐘𝐸𝐿 is doing right now.
Okay, so I'll try and get him on and talk to him about the nitty gritty of service accommodation and costing it all up and that sort of thing. Yeah. Anyone else you think should come on?
So you've got Bex. I'll tell you who. 𝐘𝐸𝐿 would be a good one.
𝐘𝐸𝐿, yes, I know 𝐘𝐸𝐿. I would love to have her on. I think I might have mentioned it to her, but not seriously. Not for a long time, anyway, at least. So yes, 𝐘𝐸𝐿 would be brilliant. Right. Well, I can see. I need to let you go, but thank you so much for speaking to me. We'll see you next time.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Well, If you are still watching, thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed the show. Obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and give us a thumbs up and leave us a comment. If you're listening to the podcast, make sure you're subscribed on whatever platform you're on. Leave us a review as well. All that stuff really helps. But the main thing is, head on over to our website, self-unemployed.co.uk, and there you'll be able to enter your email address. And once you've done that, you'll get invited to join us when we are recording future episodes. They're going to go out as live streams on YouTube, but not to the public, only to people who are on that mailing list. So if you do that, you'll be able to interact with us, ask questions as we're recording future episodes. So if you're looking to grow your wealth and become self-unemployed, let's do it together. I'll see you next time.